I'll be right back, Chelsea. Hold on. Hey, Rocky, how are you? Thanks for being here. Okay, and then let's pop to this. Boom. Chelsea, can you hear
Hey,
me?
yes, is that my bestie and a Tessie?
Oh, what's up, girl? How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, we
Talk
about to
about
get live out here, pun intended. You know what I'm saying?
hmm.
About to get live. I was meant to have some. I'm gonna have some music on these hoes. I wonder if that's a thing. Let's see.
Gaylord's out here singing Casey and the Sunshine Band if you want him to just open the door.
Lord, oh no, we good.
Woo, he's singing in
Lord.
falsetto. You're missing it.
Y'all, her dad's name is Gaylord, and he's there on a little vacation, and he's been wilding the whole time, really.
It's vibing.
Y'all, let me know how it's looking out there. Where are y'all watching from? Y'all from Facebook? Y'all from YouTube? Oh, I see Rocky's from YouTube. Okay, we got our little names up here. Feeling fresh. Yeah, I made this layout myself, so it's kind of popping. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, how do I want to do this? Y'all, if you ever start your own business, get ready. Oh, that's not it. Get ready to learn stuff you never even knew existed. That's not gonna work out. I'm doing the tech man, providing the content, booking the talent, producing the show. It's no big deal, you know. Sometimes you just gotta do more than one thing. You know what I'm saying? It's just normal, allegedly. If y'all are watching from Facebook, please share this out that you are watching it so more people can come in. Trying to let people know that it's on and popping. You should be able to share it just like you would share any other post. Let me see if I can share it how I would share any other post. I'm gonna try this music thing too, because I can't handle this nothing in the background. Hold on, we finna turn up. Let's see how sound works on this. I'm using StreamYard, so it's my first time using this program. So big up for the risk taking. I guess I should have pulled this music up beforehand because Lord knows it's gonna be difficult to get all of this stuff to work at the same time. And actually, hold on, let me go plug in my computer before I end up sitting up here looking crazy and get kicked out my own live because the power in the laptop run out. Can't be out here looking foolish. Hold on, y'all. Y'all can look at my shoe collection while I do it. There they go. Oh Lord. Oh, okay. Boom. Give me some water over here. Oh Lord. Y'all, I'm sitting over here trying to squeeze through crevices that are far smaller than my size. But you know, you got to get it done. I'm doing it for the people. I'm trying to make sure y'all have a good show. I got light shining on my face. It's hot in here. Oh, it's 6:07. Who told y'all about this? Why are these people coming in here? What y'all think this is? A live television show? Somebody got to go. Oh, it's 8 people in here. Oh, who told y'all about this? Dang, I didn't think I was gonna be lit. Let's go. Okay, somebody have to let me know if this music popping or not. Okay, hold on. I'm about to click it. Don't say nothing yet. Oh, watch it be real loud. Hold on. Come on. All right, we're gonna mute it first and bring it in real slow. We're bringing it in real. Oh Lord. I thought we was bringing it in real slow, but it came in real fast. Hey, everybody. Why it won't tell me who up in here? I want to know. I want to speak to my people. Can you hear that, Chelsea?
No.
No? Okay, good. Well, I guess that's not a thing. Sorry, y'all.
What was this
I'm
on?
lit. It's just a little instrumental, a little chill hop, some little cool. You know what I'm saying? We ain't trying to get too lit up in here.
Trick Daddy, take it to the house. No.
Oh, okay. It's not that. It's
Right.
not that. But I get it. I understand what you're doing, what you're saying. Okay, share now. Okay, I'm about to share it. Hey, y'all, I'm going to tell everybody that I'm watching myself on TV. Got to let the people know it was shared to my profile. Okay. All right. Well, I said we were going to wait about 5 minutes to let people get in, and people are in. Y'all say hello in the chat if you are in here. I love some interaction. Love to talk to some people. I already know we got Rocky in here. I already saw Colin. And just to remind people, it is going to be interactive. We got some question and answer. We're going to have a great conversation in front of y'all, but then we're going to bring in some audience questions here at the end as well. So I hope y'all ready. Get your thinking caps on. So I wanted to first welcome everyone to the inaugural, the first ever Take a Seat Race Talks live conversation. And so thank you all for having this already be a success. Just the fact that we up and running and I ain't knocked over nothing or broke something, it's already successful. So whatever happens from here on out is just icing on the cake. So thank y'all for coming through tonight. We are going to have an enthralling, oh, hey Scott. We're gonna have an enthralling conversation. Y'all watch this. Oh, y'all didn't know I was fancy, did you? Look what Scott said. Ow, look at that comment down there. Y'all didn't know I could do that. Ow. All right, so we are in here. We're going to have an enthralling conversation with my wonderful childhood friend, Chelsea Hodges. I am so excited. We have been texting each other and laughing and kikiing all day. And so I am just really excited to dive in and for y'all to meet her. So we are going to start out with, one thing before we move on. If you are watching on Facebook, please, please, please share this out to your timeline. As y'all know, if y'all are old like we are, y'all remember back when you used to get shares and likes on your own merit. They don't do that no more. So it's all about the algorithm. The more people who are talking about it, the more they show it to people. So y'all, we got to play the game so that your great granny don't be out here committing racisms against people. Let everybody know that you're watching it so we can go ahead and, get the people educated. Okay, y'all get it. I respect it and I trust you. All right, Chelsea, Time to introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself to my audience. I haven't decided what they are. Y'all know how people be having stands. I don't know if y'all are the seats, the chairs. I guess in this situation, you really could just be the audience. But that's lame. So we'll come up with something. But Chelsea, tell us your name, where you're from, what you do. Just tell us whatever you want to tell us about yourself. I'm gonna be quiet. Go ahead.
Hey everybody. First I need to know which friend Scott was talking to because he said singular friends, and now we have problems. But anywho, I'm Chelsea. I'm originally from Jackson, West Tennessee, like Remington, like Scott. I
71. Let's go. Okay. Sorry.
we went to high school together, Remington and I. I'm currently a social worker. I have my master's in social work. I'm working on getting a clinical license, and I reside in Knoxville. I supervise a team of about 10 people that provide services to families who are disenfranchised, who are struggling with mental health and substance use issues. And so there's a lot of intersectional struggles that happen there with racism, classism, ableism, things like that. So I work really closely with the juvenile justice system, the child welfare system. I studied macro social work, so that's how systems impact people, and more specifically people who are Black and brown. So that's what I'm doing right now. What else do you want to know, Rem?
That is a wonderful start. That is good enough for me. So thank you for sharing that with us. And we are going to hop right in. The way that we have this formatted today is we're going to do what we call the conversation. And this is related to the first piece of the interview that I released on Take a Seat Race Talks, the YouTube channel. And that interview was called Laying the Foundation. So if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you should be. We are going to do Take a Seat Race Talk lives every 2 weeks, and I'll have different guests. Sometimes I won't have a guest, but like it's so that we can have an opportunity to engage with the content. The stuff that you are here for, the reason that you come is because there are not a lot of spaces that are having productive conversations about race. And so that is the whole point of this, is so you can kind of learn straight from the horse's mouth and not have to go through the Fox News /CNN/MSNBC channel, whatever the case may be. So tonight our conversation is centered around laying the foundation. What's kind of some of the foundations that white folks need to understand to be able to be effective allies? After we have the conversation, we're going to open it up in the chat for Q&A. So please feel free to type any questions that come to your mind in the chat, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on LinkedIn or Facebook. It all comes directly to us, and I'll be able to highlight your questions during the Q&A session, and then we're going to wrap up. We're trying to do a tight hour here, so we're not going to be going on and on because it's Friday night and people got things that they want to do. Self-care, so about to hit the weekend. I'm going to start us off with our first question, young Chaj. So like a lot of times in psychology and human development, we hear about people's socialization, the way that they grew up, the messages they received through their lived experiences, etc., that shape them to be kind of who they are today. So in a similar vein, I want to like turn that question a little bit. And I would like to say, not what is your socialization story, but what is your racialization story? What messages, implicit or explicit, did you receive about people who aren't white when you were growing up? And how has that impacted your worldview?
Yeah, so I thought a lot about this, and I think when I think about my family and how I was raised, I think my family would identify as like good whites, right?
Mm.
So I remember hearing a lot of messages about like, well, I don't care if you're black, brown, purple, or pink, which is really insidious and sometimes more harmful than overt racism. But I don't remember growing up in a culture of like racial slurs, but I also don't remember my parents bringing around any friends of color to the house. So there wasn't a lot of talk of my whiteness because the world is made for me and my whiteness. And so as far as my own like orientation to the world around me, that came at a later date. I think that my family took a bit of a soft cop out with the you don't see race sort of thing that came through like in the 80s and 90s,
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, but also really harmful. But I also had the privilege of being exposed to a lot of Black content growing up. So that was music or the neighborhood that I was in or the schools that I went to, even in more white spaces, I gravitated towards Black and brown people. And so I think that ability to cultivate like humanity with Black and brown people came a little bit easier than maybe people that were raised in like singularly white spaces.
Mm.
Um, but there was never conversations of privilege or how does my whiteness impact a space? What is it like? How is Remington different from me when you come over to the house? Those weren't thoughts that I had until much later. Those weren't conversations that I was having with my family.
And so, like, when you say good whites, like you describe your family as like good white people, I think about that beginning of, what was that movie Hairspray, where they're singing and bebopping and they say we're the nice white kids, you know, like what what do you feel like that means in the conversation today when people say, oh, I'm a good white person, or even some people like oh, I want to be an ally? What do you think people mean by that? What do they think they're saying? Like, you know, talk to me about that. Why did you say the good whites?
I think, you know, the rest of that lyric is, and once a month we have Negro Day. You know, like
Oh,
I think it's that vibe, right? Like once a month we have Negro Day. Like Remington comes over and he swims in our swimming pool. You know, but they might not get in the streets, you know, they might not be as vocal as I would hope that they would be. Possibly. I think there's been a lot of growth. But I think it's easy to sit back and be lukewarm. It's sit back and like, I'm not waving a Confederate flag, right? We're in the South. I'm not agreeing with a joke that someone used that had a racial slur in it, but I'm also not speaking up. I'm also not challenging the people around me in my workplace. I think there's a lot of shift, but there's been a lot of like good white mentality where there's a lot more silence than there is action. And hopefully, you know, people are moving out of that in the, you know, more recent climate. But I think that's probably what my family fell into.
So like, I'm thinking about I guess like the meaning is literal. When you say the good whites, it means like we're not doing the bad stuff, and thereby we are self-selecting as good.
Right.
And so like how do you feel like that becomes dangerous? Like I feel like I can say theoretically how it becomes dangerous. Obviously, if you are repeating a story to yourself, whether it's true or false, you start to live your life through that lens. But like, is there anything, can you speak more personally to it? If we have white people watching right now who are like, okay, I grew up feeling like I was the good white, or I was in a good white family, what are some ways they may not be aware of that narrative can harm people of color and marginalized people?
Sure. I mean, goodness is relative, right? So being a good white is dangerous because you're not as bad as those people. So we've got an other. So now we're othering brown and Black people, and we're othering other white people. When you're the superior space, there's no space or need for reflection or growth. So one takes out the necessity for insight and growth, right? If you're already deemed good. And it also, it goes back to that, like, I don't see color type of mentality. Like, I'm a good white and you're a good Black, so we're on even playing field. And that's not true. You don't have to wrestle with your privilege. You don't have to wrestle with areas of growth. You don't have to wrestle with whiteness and how that shows up every day in every space for you because you've deemed yourself good. But just because you're not overtly racist doesn't mean you're not participating or benefiting from white supremacy around you. And it's everywhere. It's embedded in everything.
Yeah. So like when you talk about working with systems, kind of tie this good white. So when you are a good white at home, at your house, you know, chilling, kicking it with your mom, your dad, your siblings, it's like, okay, nothing here is really shaking up our norm. We can be how we are. Nobody's going to bother us. It's fine. How do you feel like that has translated to the systems in America? Where do you see that now that you work close to juvenile, like you said, the juvenile system, and working with people who are using substances and may be in poverty? How are you seeing that mentality impact your professional life?
I think most systems are made up of good whites, and that is why we can't make progress. We are stalled by the good whites in places and spaces because there's no reason to reflect, there's no reason to grow. No one's walking, well, few people are walking into the courthouse waving a Confederate flag, right? Like no one maybe walking in the White House and in the courthouse yelling the N-word. However, in practice, they might as well be. In their treatment of Black and brown peoples and clients, they might as well be, but you can't point to that as easily. And then it's an echo chamber of good whites that are patting each other on the back and saying, like, no, you did the right thing. You're a good person. You're saving lives. And there's no room for reflection or anyone to question what's actually happening, because at the table, there's no seats for brown and Black people, number one. So, and if there is, their voices are largely drowned out and they have to conform to, those spaces to survive. And so I think good whites are blocking our progress forward.
So, like, what does that look like in the, I mean, you brought up like the courtroom, or, if we're having a hearing about a kid, what is something like a tangible example that someone could say, oh, I would think that this was the right thing in this situation, but it's actually just a reflection of what good white people think is the right thing?
So one example that I come back to frequently when I think about this is there is a Black single dad who started his case not knowing the details of what was going on with his child. So the child was born, the mom, who is Black but lighter skinned. So that's interesting because there's also some colorism, because you can be the right sort of Black in the eyes of the court too, and they'll be more apt to help you. And this is not a blanket statement. There are good people in every space, and I'm not trying to get fired. However, I am trying to make changes. So it is what it is. There's a Black dad who was unaware of his child's circumstances. So he came into the case later in the game. And so it looks like he didn't, right? He was a negligent Black father. That wasn't the case. He had a team of all white faces. So nobody that looked like him, who were frustrated about some of the things that happened in his past and past charges, that he wasn't upfront about to his also white intake provider when we were doing assessments. And so he's a Black negligent dad. He's dishonest. And then he got very frustrated in a meeting, which I get frustrated in meetings all the time. I raise my voice, I get passionate, and no one's ever, looked at me in the same way. And so now he's a negligent Black father, an angry Black man, and they had written him off as a possibility, essentially, to care for this child. My team, however, who's very diverse, fantastic, more talented than I'll ever be, and I'm like so gracious and grateful to be a part of what we're doing, but they were able to rally around this man, get him what he needed, find providers that look like him, and find some advocates that look like him to step into these white spaces. And he's about to get his kid back as a single dad, and he's killing it, and he's capable, and we love to see it. But he was about to be written off entirely because he showed up as a Black man in a white space.
So, like, with the introduction of, you named a couple of entry points. So your team having racially diverse people on it was a boost for him. Then in turn, those racially diverse people who had a different perspective than how the current committee was seeing him were able to say, hey, let's get some other people on your team who are not judging you this way. And then once we introduced those people and changed out some of the folks in those seats, now not only did we come to a completely different conclusion, but the opposite conclusion. Like, that to me, like, if there is not a better example of representation matters, or like that white people have some growth to do, I think that's a perfect one. And with the work that I've been doing these past 3 years here, working with schools in the South, like, I have recognized something similar where I am starting to learn how important my perspective is and how different it is. And like one of the things that I've had to battle with personally is as a Black person who, quite frankly, white people's favorite kind of Black person. Like I'm happy, I'm bubbly, I can sing, I can dance, I'm smart, academic. Like, I could do whatever I want in white people's face and they'll be like, Hercules, Hercules, And so it's like to go into those spaces and choose Blackness is difficult because like the good whites don't know that they like me until I'm Blacker than they think I should be. I remember like the Beyonce formation, and I think it was SNL did a skit where all the white people were going crazy on Monday because they're like, wait, Beyonce's Black? But she was like our favorite. She never said anything Black. She was just so neutral and we loved it. And so, I wonder how much of that is a projection of the good white syndrome onto Black people and then calling it she's a good Black, he's a good Black because they're not ruffling my feathers. If I'm not ruffling feathers in white culture, I'm good. So I'm going to project that onto you as well. If you're a Black person not ruffling feathers now, you are also good. But as soon as you speak up, whole different story.
Right. The whites hate to be uncomfy. They hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the when we talk about the tenets of white supremacy, the right to comfort is one of the tenets of white supremacy. One of the things that keeps white supremacy afloat and keeps them empowered is that as long as we continue to create schools and work environments and leadership teams, C-suites where they value never butting heads, we're never going to go anywhere. Everything gets swept under the rug. And so now, I'm in a situation where I'm having to have some difficult conversations with some of my clients where, the decision was made in this direction because that is what the white person thought was the best way to go about it. And it's what they've done in the past. And so I personally have to fear being viewed as a bad Black by speaking up and saying like, I get why you made this decision and I get how you thought it was good for me because it would have been good for you, but it actually was not good for me. And I can't say how it's going to go. But like the fear is real regardless. And these are people who I have good relationship with, but that doesn't change the fact that I've been traumatized by speaking up in situations like this before. So now not only am I doing the work of the DEI strategist, helping you figure out your whiteness, I now also have to manage my own trauma that comes along with being fearful about advocating for myself. And so like there's just Black folks are just doing so much work. Marginalized people are doing so much work. And to have, whether it's the left, whether it's the right, whoever, to look and say, they're lazy. They just want to hand out. Like, it's so disrespectful to our experience. Because, like, nobody's working harder than people of color to be alive in this country, just to be able to go outside, And so it's just, woo! All right, so tangent. I want to move us to our second question, kind of going to the opposite end of the spectrum. Chelsea, what would you say drives you to care enough about people who aren't yourself and like who don't look like you, that you would go against the system of whiteness, a system that, quite frankly, could and would probably serve you pretty well if you were to allow it? Like, why do you buck against the system as a Black person? I mean, as a white person, sorry.
I think that the sense of other, and don't hear me wrong, I still have white skin, right? But there's always been a sense of otherness. And as I grew, I realized I'm queer. That's what that was. But that internal, like, I am different from other people around me, made it easier to see and cultivate empathy in that way. And so that piece came a little bit naturally. And then I think as I grew in relationship with Black and brown people in a way was genuine, I reached this point of just how dare I how dare I consume Black content and not protect Black creators? How dare I consume Black friendship and not protect my friends? How dare I ask Black and brown staff to do hard things and not protect them and give them what they need? How dare I? I think about that a lot. I've tried my values in a way so that like I feel ill if I ever go home and I didn't stand up for someone's Blackness or brownness or whatever it is that they need me to stand up for in my privilege. And so it's an inherent right or wrong thing for me, but I think it was the turning point of the how dare I consume without validating and respecting and protecting the things that I'm consuming. And then how do I be less of a consumer, right? But just the things that I take in, there are people on the line, their lives on the line. Like, how dare I use that content, if that's relational, emotional, whatever that is, creative, without giving back.
Do you, like, when I heard you say, like, how dare I not stand up, that touched something inside of me. Like, there's a voice in your head that has a firmness about it when it happens, or at least that's what it sounds like. I feel like my voice when it happens, when I'm standing up, it's a little more timid, or it's like I have to convince myself. I have to say, like, hey, you deserve to fight in this moment. That's my inner self-talk. And then I go. Do you feel fear? Like, do you think, and I mean, there's no way you could, maybe this is an unanswerable question for you, but like, do you feel fear at all? Or do you think you feel fear like how I'm talking about feeling fear? Or is that different for you as a white person?
I think it's my privilege, right? Like, I have less to lose if I stand up and holler than you do. Like, my skin is still at the end of the day. And the queerer I get, now when I walk in a room, people are just as confused as I am looking at what's going on. I don't know either. Let me have a burrito in peace. Don't talk to me. I don't want to perceive you either. So I'm making it a little bit harder for myself to blend. But at the end of the day, my skin is still white, right? Like, I have less to lose than you. But I also think that I've really leaned into the rage that is a gift of mine. Like, I think for a long time I was in the white evangelical church for a while, and that did a lot of damage. And this like rage fire that I have within me that I truly think is a gift, I've leaned into it rather than shied away from it. And so there's probably fear, but I also have a lot of impulse control issues. And so if I think it's the right thing to do, I'm going to do it, like I'm ready to fight at a given moment. There's a lot of times I might need to pipe down in certain situations, not about your Blackness, but just in general. I won't. I will pipe up, and then I will dial it up, and then we will be fist fighting, and might not even be necessary, but I'm going to do it. So there's probably fear, and I think it was maybe a process. I don't know, or maybe it was a light bulb. I really can't say, but at some point it was just the only option is to say something, to do something. That's it. I can't go to sleep at night if I didn't. That's how I've aligned with values, and that's how I navigate the world at this point.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm processing that right now. I guess, like, gosh, I had not had this thought before now about how even when I do stand up, it's not from a place of valor. It's from a place of like, if I don't, who will? And I just think that's something for me to chew on as we, in the days to come. Like, I guess I had never thought about, like, I think about somebody like Angela Davis, who, when Angela Davis feel away, she's saying it loud, proud, black afro, fist in the air. That is not how I do this work. And I don't think until this point I knew I had permission to do this work like that. And it's kind of like, well, dang, if we're fighting for everything else that white people have, I might as well fight for the confidence of a white woman, when white women put out their distress cry, they have no doubt that they will be saved. And so like maybe I'm gonna put that in my toolkit and be like, how would a white woman protest in this situation? And give it some of that. Well, I'll let you know how it goes. Okay. Go ahead. What are you saying?
The more that we talk and work together over the past year on your different projects, it's interesting. Like, you have more grace for white people than I do. And I think that's just our different giftings, right? Like,
Yeah.
I do not have not one hot goddamn about the feelings of white people. I don't care. I do not care. You have so much grace and kindness. I don't. And that's my gift to the world. My gift is to make them uncomfy, because I'll be fine. I will be fine when I walk away from the space, probably, most likely. And either way, I guarantee I don't care. So it's just interesting. I wonder how much of it is race and privilege and white supremacy, and how much of it is just also additionally our like giftings and orientation as to how we navigate being a person. I don't know.
That's a good point. Like, I was gonna ask you a question, and I guess it segues into that really well. I was gonna ask you a question of like, with you being more of the fiery type of person, like you said, when you feel it, you're gonna say it. You're gonna stand up and you're gonna say your thing. Have you seen, or do you have any like advice for a white person who that may not be their gifting or their personality type? Like, I hadn't thought about that before. But I have had people ask me, like, am I supposed to just stand up at Thanksgiving and flip the turkey over and yell Black Lives Matter and start a flash mob doing the funky Watusi? Like, no, like, you don't have, that may not be your thing. Like, what other ways are there for people to be allies other than flipping a table in a meeting?
Immediately, I'm like, flip the table.
I know that would be your response. Your turkey flying. So like, what is some? And if it's not a question you can answer, I may be able to answer it my damn self. I don't know. Go on.
It's a good question that I need to sit with. I think that there should be more turkey flipping. I think that
not the turkey.
I think we're kind of floating back into good white territory. I think some of it is, I've realized, because I do a lot of hollering and screaming, that so much of it is, I think there should be more turkey flipping. So much of it is relational. So building those relationships, and also being willing to cut off relationships. Like, I think it is time. It's always been time, but now more than ever, it's time to draw a hard line. Because people are dying. They've always been dying, but now it's just televised, right? Like, it's time to flip a turkey. The least you can do is have an uncomfy Thanksgiving, because people are dying. So you can have an uncomfy conversation with your racist uncle.
Dang, when you put those things side by side, that's like, is it uncomfortable Thanksgiving versus televised death and a hashtag? It's like, damn, you got to do more, like, you're right.
I view it. But that's also right. That's my personality. But yeah, you can have a fucking uncomfy Thanksgiving. I don't give a shit. People are dying.
Yeah.
And then how dare you, right? Like, how dare you call a Black and brown person your friend if you're not willing to have an uncomfy conversation at a dinner table? Also, are they your friend, or are they trying to survive and code switch? Like, get out of here. That's another conversation, though. Is your Black coworker your friend, or are they trying to survive? Anywho, we can have a different conversation about that.
I have some thoughts about, I'm just sitting here trying to think, because since you did, and this is like, folks, if you don't have friends who are able to be like a mirror for you in the best and worst ways at times, like, I feel like Chelsea is always a mirror for me. She reminds me of like what I look like, what I'm good at, who I am. And so, like, for you to say that grace for white people is a gifting for me, I know that in my brain, but I don't think I like think about it as impactful as it is. And so for folks who are trying to figure out what's another way besides flipping the turkey at Thanksgiving, I think My approach is usually I like to get to the root of things, and I always talk about my practical approach is heart centered. And so something I've been quoting recently that I think I came up, there are probably variations of it, but like hate is not about the person receiving it. It's about the person who's giving it.
Mhm.
And like Chelsea and I have started some work on this program called like Scared of My Own Shadow. And it references like what in therapy is called shadow work. So, this idea that we all have past experiences, our socialization, traumas that are following us around and they are attached to us like our shadow, and they show up and impact like the real self. And so I think when I approach this work, I am trying to get people to look at their shadow because, like, it's just something we don't do in real life. You just assume that if the sun is tilted a certain way, your shadow's behind you. You assume that it has no impact on the rest of the world, but like it's casting shade over something, it's blocking somebody out from something, it's providing something for somebody. Like, I don't think people do enough looking into themselves, enough introspective development. And so when I go into these situations, instead of saying, hey, you're wrong about this, and hey, you need to think different about that, which there is appropriate time for that, I like to ask people really hard questions and let them struggle to find the answer in themselves.
Mhm.
When I was a classroom teacher, we had this mantra of whoever's doing the lifting is doing the learning. And so we teaching kids who are from marginalized communities and had quite frankly not been served very well in school, there was this knee-jerk reaction of teachers to coddle the kids. It's like, oh, he doesn't know how to read, so I'm gonna give him some easier work, or she's not good at math, so I'm gonna give her something easier. It's like, no, the only way you get stronger at something is to train. And so, like, yes, we're going to acknowledge that you have some gaps in your learning. We're going to acknowledge that you struggle with science, but I'm also not going to do it for you. I'm going to help. When you think about a spotter at the gym, they don't lift it for you. They hover in a way that gives you the confidence to lift it yourself. And so I think that is another form of allyship that I would like to see more white people take on. Is like challenging that shadow, challenging that history of your own people with your own people.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's the white people's work to do the work with white people. I think that's a
Yeah.
good point to any white person listening that wants to be a better ally. Like, don't take necessarily your thoughts to your black friends. One, check in, are they even your black friend? One, check on that. Because are they sharing stuff with you? Do they come to you with their like inner conflicts and struggles? If not, they're probably not your friend. Anywho, take it to your white friends that are doing the same work.
Yeah.
Google, read a book, do that else. No, it's not the work of the black people. It's the white people to do the work in the white community. And I think you are such a gift. And I tell you all the time, I'm like, that grace couldn't be me. It's not me. That's not my gift.
hate to see it, Grace. Hate
Yeah.
to see it.
You're like, I love it for you, but it won't be me. It's the work of white people in the white community. And so white people, like I said, don't like to be uncomfy, and doing your shadow work and looking and seeing how your race and intersectionality impacts how you navigate the world is uncomfy. And so it's much easier to be in a white echo chamber where people are patting you on the back, or you never even have to acknowledge it, which is just as scary. I mean, that's the work.
Woo! Okay. All right. Friday afternoon. Woo, child. The work. So I'm gonna segue. I think it's a good segue into our last question, and then we'll go into question and answer, and then we'll wrap up. So, kind of thinking about on the heels of the conversation we just had, what's one thing that you have learned in your journey toward allyship that you think other white people could really benefit from understanding as they either like enter this space or seek to fortify themselves in this space of uplifting blackness and black people and brown people and queer people and marginalized people? Like, what do your white friends enemies. What do white people need to know if they really want to enter into this space in a way that's helpful?
I think number one, hush and sit down. Literally take a seat. And that's something you learn every day. Because
come on, plug. Yeah, take a seat.
I love to talk. I like to talk over people and interrupt people. And some of that's my ADHD, and some of that is my whiteness. And so I have learned to hush. And so with that, following Black leadership, I promise Black people know how to be survivors and be Black better than you do. Their ideas are better. They're stronger. They've been doing this for thousands of years. Hush. And they don't need you, you know? Black people don't need white people to survive. They've been doing it while being oppressed by white people. But it would be helpful if you use your privilege, right? Like, decenter yourself. This isn't about you, but your privilege would be helpful. So some of that is just piping down. Let me see. I mean, deferring to Black leadership. Black people are the experts on Black experiences. Dad, do you want to say hello real quick?
Yeah, we about to get blessed by Gaylord. Come on through.
How you doing there, Remington?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man.
You having fun up there in the cabin?
Man, I'm just a picking and a grinning out here, just listening to God's beautiful nature.
So country and southern. Thank you, Gaylord, for making an appearance.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Woo, Joe. Yeah, we used to have some times over at the house. This Chelsea's daddy is something else. He is something else. What was we just talking about, Chelsea? Let me look back at my little notes.
Lingering like this.
We were talking about how white people could sit back and hush.
Speaking of
right.
So
don't do Gaylord.
Okay, quick diversion. Guess what's in the refrigerator right now? There's two things you're not going to guess correctly.
Oh my God. Is it a dead pig?
That's a good guess. Sweet tea and live crickets. That's what we're doing over here. Anywho, white people need to hush and get uncomfortable. I think we've talked about that. Get uncomfortable. I do not care about your comfort. You've been comfortable your whole life. So have your ancestors. That doesn't mean that your hardship isn't real, that you haven't experienced hard things, but it wasn't made harder because of your skin color. And that's important to know. Black people are uncomfortable every day. You can have an uncomfy Thanksgiving is a huge thing that I've taken away. Educating yourself. Go ahead.
I think also, you know, when you were talking about deferring to Black leaders and like letting Black folks be capable, I think about like, what does it look like to be the alley-oop? Like, what is it? You know, I recently watched The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary. And like, you know, they talked about how a lot of the certain years, y'all don't know anything about sports, very little, about how a lot of the years the team was built around Michael Jordan and people had to be okay literally staying in their lane of the basketball, you know, of the basketball court. And so like, I wonder what it would look like if white people would function in their lane of allyship. Like, you're not always going to be the person to dunk. Sometimes you pass the alley-oop. Sometimes you run the screen. Sometimes you defend and make sure that the person who is dunking gets to the hole. Like, I feel like white people are so used to being the center of something that it's the only way they know how to respond to something. Like, I keep thinking about the gif of Nene when she was talking to Marlo, support me, bitch. Like, you know, sometimes just support what the Black person is doing. You don't have to start your own thing. You don't have to start your own initiative. The disparity of wealth between white people and Black people, just throw me $5. Shit, fund my project. Like, and you know, you ain't got to be front and center. Like, you know, it's just like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about and to realize is not really a thing. It is very rare that a white person is behind the scenes of a black project and doesn't at some point get mad about just being behind the scenes and take it over. You know, like I would love to see it. Imagine if white people could just help with no agenda, you know, like I don't know.
I think it goes back to the shadow work, to understanding yourself and your giftings and plugging yourself in accordingly. And also, what's the vision? The vision, I hope. And again, I love attention. All I'm trying to do when I walk in a room is stop traffic, right? Like, I know who I am. And the vision is equality. I don't want you to have a seat at the table. Like, we're building a new table. You are building the table. You tell me where I need to sit, or if I need to stand over here. If you want me to get under the table, if you want to flip the table, this is your table. You tell me what to do. And I think that's what's making like what you're doing successful. I think that's where we get real action, because it is hard for the whites to pipe down. The whole world is making them to pipe up. But yeah, I mean, imagine if you could just get some good allies to be quiet and defer to black leadership, use their giftings in a way that moves like a movement forward that maybe has nothing to do with them. It doesn't have anything to do with them, right? Like your blackness being respected does benefit me in the way that like the world would be safer and kinder and all of those things. Like it doesn't impact me directly today. I'm not getting anything out of it. And also it is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's hard to quantify that for someone that doesn't have, you know, the whites like immediate gratification. They like results. They like capitalism. They like the hustle and seeing that immediate gratification. And that doesn't happen in this way. It's the individualism versus the collective.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to go ahead and segue right into our question and answer section. If you are joining us on Facebook, feel free to type your questions for me or Chelsea here in the chat. If you are watching us on YouTube, feel free to type your questions. It can be related to what we talked about today, or if there was something I didn't ask that you want to ask, feel free to do that. I've got one already from Scott Archer. And so we're going to let that scroll across the screen here. So in relation to the good white syndrome, how can white people mentally prepare ourselves and help our friends to be more open to criticism and self-improvement surrounding race? I think that's I'll start, Chelsea, and I'll lob to you in a moment. I think that's the shadow work. One thing that I have learned in the last couple of years, like, because starting in my own consultancy and putting myself out there as an expert in the field has necessitated that I understand some things about myself, because stuff comes up now. Like I'm having to relearn the impact of talking about race all the time and being around so many white people. It has an impact on who I am. And so I am now forced to learn where that's coming from. So I have to go to therapy. I have to have friends who have social emotional intelligence, who can help me identify feelings. Like when I had a situation happen the other couple of weeks ago, I had to text Chelsea and say, hey, I think I just experienced a traumatic situation. Can you tell me what trauma looks like? Like, what are the phases of trauma? And she was able to, inform me. It normally looks like this, and this in the beginning. And I was like, oh, I'm experiencing all of that. And so I think one of the things that I take for granted is just being in therapy and having friends who have social emotional intelligence. That is what preps me. Because and I'll even go beyond prep. And this is like a new thing that I'm learning right now. I don't have to be prepared for everything. What I am learning is that if I fall one day, I can get up. Like my legs still work. If I break something, I can fix it. And so I'm in this transition of going out into the world every day braced for the worst type of racism. Whereas now I go out and I am more relaxed and I'm calm and I'm thinking about, oh, well, I'm just going to go have me a piece of burger down to the burger shack. And I know that if something off the wall happens, my people, my therapist, I'm going to get put back together. It's going to be okay. And so when you think about being prepared for criticism and self-improvement, that all comes from digging into what made you unprepared for it. There is something in your life, family dynamics, some kind of trauma, relationship stuff, your shadow, that has made you unreceptive to criticism and self-improvement around a lot of things. There are few people who are just mad about race. You know, like there's more. And so that would be my push, is get in therapy. Get some friends with social emotional intelligence.
As a therapist, that supervising therapists, I would have to agree. And not to share your information, but you know, that incident that you're referring to, like you could have been harmed or killed for being Black at the hands of police for simply existing in Black skin. And you have friends presumably watching right now, get uncomfortable. I can't emphasize that enough. Like, don't come on here and support you if you're not willing to put your physical, emotional, spiritual body in between somebody else and Remington, somebody else and whatever Black and brown person that you claim to love. Like, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm putting my literal or my emotional or my occupational body in between myself and brown and Black people. So I think like mentally preparing yourself too is recognizing the privilege. Like, what a gift to have to prepare yourself to understand what Remington is experiencing every day. What a gift, you know?
Because I didn't get to prepare. It just happened.
Right.
It just happened to me.
Right. So just do it. Like, again, you're so much more gracious, and I love that. I just don't really care about y'all's feelings. Like, just do it. And I promise to, like, get started and it gets easier. And it's forever lingering journey of guilt. There might be guilt that you need to unpack and some forgiveness that you need to do to yourself when you could have stood up and done all these things, or the ways that you've overlooked your privilege throughout your life. But you don't stop there. On the other side of it too is like joy and having like a greater, fuller life and being a part of something that's meaningful when you leave this earth. But just start somewhere, start reading, start Googling, go to therapy, do that anyway, regardless. But start having conversations, just start somewhere, get a buddy. Ideally, if you are a white person, find another white person to walk through this with. Don't grab a Black person. This is not their work. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't need a gold star from your Black friend. Grab a buddy and just jump in.
Yeah. I see another question in the chat from Sherry. Hey, Miss Sherry. I used to teach her sons. And so this one is a little longer. I've read through, I think I'm paraphrasing it the best I can. So like Miss Sherry says, we Black people support all others and their goals, you know, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, stop Asian hate, practically because we're part of these communities and we're compassionate. Why don't others, in this case, white people, return this? Why don't most see that our fight is one that protects and uplifts everybody? And then she goes on to talk about a quote from the Holocaust, like paraphrase, when they came for blank, I did nothing because I'm not blank, but then they came for me, you know? And so kind of that same idea that Chelsea was just talking about is like there, or maybe, no, I was listening to a podcast earlier that was talking about, like, it was something about how a certain group was flaming another group with this other group. And it's like, do y'all realize if it wasn't them on trial, it would be you? And it's like, why does it take that? Why does it take this self-interest for us to act? And I talk about this in some part of the interview. I got so many pieces of content out. It's just a lot to remember. But this idea of individualism versus collectivism is what I think is at the root of this. Like, for an individualist, the most important thing is me and my direct family. for collectivist people who come from collectivist cultures, which most, if not all, people of color are from collectivist cultures. You also see collectivism more so in poverty, whether white or black, or people of color or white people. And with collectivism, the goal is harmony. The kind of the mantra of collectivism is, if y'all good, I'm good. If y'all not good, I'm not good. Like we got work to do. If everybody ain't all right, we got work to do. And so I think for white folks, it coming from that individualism, that is not a part of their value system. And I think during the pandemic, white people were so surprised to see their own racism and classism pay dividends against them. I felt like so many of my white friends felt so oppressed under the Trump administration because somebody more privileged, more wealthy, and more powerful than you for the first time did not welcome you to their table. Donald Trump said, I don't care if you look like me. It seemed like he didn't care about anybody. And so he was just like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I want to do because the most important thing to me is me and the people closest to me. And when my white friends or white colleagues or whatever came to me and said that they felt that way, I said, welcome. Welcome to my existence. How does it feel? Sucks, don't it? And what if I were to tell you right now, oh, you're asking for a handout. Oh, you're just being too soft. You're too soft in this generation. You need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. What if I said that? Like, we sat here and are currently still in a pandemic that this man allowed, sanctioned, signed up for, and your granny is dead because of your value system. Because someone enacted your value system on you, and look what happened. And now all of a sudden it's time to fight. And so, like, I think that's the root of it is individualism. We are the United States of America is in an extreme individualist country. The whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps, that means, like, if I'm pulling myself up, that means everybody else going down. And it doesn't have to be that way. You have any thoughts, Chelsea?
I think this is a moment to defer to Black leadership. I mean, maybe the only thing I could add just as a queer person is white queer people often like give themselves an out. Like, we're a little oppressed, so we don't have to do any more work than that because we know what it's like to be a little oppressed, which is true, right? Like, it's hard to be a queer person and your skin is still white at the end of the day, especially white gay men. If any of those are online, I'm specifically talking to you because the world was still made for you as a white man. It doesn't mean that like your gayness isn't valid, but there's still a lot of work to do. And there's a lot of privilege and a lot of shock that comes up when that privilege is like pressed up against. I've seen that more lately of just like, you're not like excluded from the work because you're gay. You just have a little different struggle in that area than someone else, but you're still white. Your skin is still white. And so I think that's just a challenge to any white queer people that are listening. Like, you still have work to do. We are not aligned because we both have things that marginalize us. Like, my skin is still white. I will still experience the world differently. Every time I cut my hair, though, it's getting like, more dangerous, but it's still different. My skin's still white. Your skin is Black.
Yeah. I want to do this last question also from Scott, and we'll wrap up after this. Scott said, do you have thoughts on reconciling cutting toxic people out of our lives while risking their becoming more extremist in their positions? And so, like, I think the way I'm interpreting this is like, and I've heard this from a lot of white people who feel this responsibility of like, if I don't correct my granny, who will? Or like, if I don't speak to my mom, who will? And I think this is like a really hard balance to strike because, and like, I think I have compassion for this because where I am in my therapy journey right now is like reconciling some feelings that I have toward my family that I grew up with. And I think guilt would tell me that I don't have the right to set boundaries while I help heal myself and then come back to these people. But I have learned that I have to be strong and courageous enough to put me first. Like, you had your turn, and this is what you did with your life. And this is how it impacted my life. Now I need to go away and get strong enough to, if I choose, to put myself back in harm's way to help you, to help you. But that's if I choose. And so, like, I had a friend the other day who was just essentially, and I don't mean to be morbid, but he was like, I asked on Facebook the other day, are white people talking to their white family members about race, about how they were growing up and hating black people? And he was like, to be honest, I'm just waiting on her to die. He said, I've got 2 out of 3 already. I'm just waiting. Like, she's so entrenched. And so, like, what I want to say is, don't spend so much of your time feeling like you're only valid if you get this person, and that person. Like, there's not a scorekeeper. If Granny don't want to listen, go somewhere else. Go to your work. Go to you got to be able to pick your battles. I'm not out here going to Klan meetings offering them consultation. That's not gonna work out. I don't walk up to the Proud Boys and be like, hey, y'all want to be the racially sensitive boys? Probably not. That's none of my business. And I know it's harder when it's somebody who raised you, when it's somebody you're connected to by blood, but boundaries are boundaries. Like, there aren't special boundaries for family versus for friends. There aren't special boundaries for my no means no to a stranger, but my no means yes to my grandma. No, your no should mean no. If that's not going to help you to help them, no, you don't owe them that.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. When you talk about like research-based models of change, there are people that fall on the extremes, and research would say kind of leave them alone, like you said. Work to do. There is things that we can do to protect, Black and brown people. But I too am not going to show up at a Klan meeting, right? But there are people that fall in the middle, that are having some questions, whose gears are turning. Those are the people that you target. And everyone has a sphere of influence. That's something I thought about a lot. There are people in your life that listen to you. Turn to those people. Be present in spaces that you're in. Where do you have effective reach? Go there. Like, it's not my job to turn a super racist uncle, theoretically, to be a Black Lives Matter supporter. However, if there are people in my immediate sphere that listen to me on social media or in the workplace or in other spaces, that is the work. So I think as long as you're doing that, you're headed in the right direction, because it can feel overwhelming as a white person to be a good ally. And also, what a privilege, again, to get tired of being an ally rather than like struggling in Black skin. So take the rest you need and then get back up and do it again the next day. But as far as setting boundaries, I mean, you're right. You don't owe anyone anything. I think it's like, what are your giftings and where do you fall naturally, and do that there.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you, Chelsea, for being with us. This was a great conversation, and all 10, 15 years in the making. And we out here, who knew all these conversations we used to have in high school physics was going to turn into a whole platform. We out here, So one thing that I want to remind people about before we get ready to go, these Take a Seat lives will be happening every 2 weeks. And so, like, the way that I think about it is, a part of the interview will come out on the Monday, and then the following Friday we'll have a live. And so I want to give everybody an opportunity to watch the video. Please, please, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you put in Take a Seat Race Talks in the YouTube, you should be able to find it. The next part of the interview, part 2, comes out on Monday, and it is about white people, their culture, their identity, and their values. And so we've kind of been the precursor to that. So please take time to watch that. It's really helpful. And I mean, maybe you can share it with your racist uncle. Maybe he'll watch it. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll send me a hate DM. Wouldn't be the first time. Give it a shot. At least you try it. Chelsea, anything you want to say as we wrap up? You want people to follow you anywhere? Any socials? I don't know. I know that's not your jam, but go on.
Alone entirely. You can. I post some funny content sometimes. My Instagram is Chelsea Aline. Chelsea, my first name. AILENE, my middle name. If you want some good memes. I also like to practice my allyship in the Facebook comments. I have exactly like 2 friends.
Ooh.
And if some crazy whites try to get it started, just at me, and I always find time. Okay, I always find time to snatch a wig, to drag a white. I'll make time. So that's a service that I provide for free as a white ally.
Yeah, Chelsea has literally texted me in the middle of the day and been like, who is this white person talking crazy on your post? Do you need me to get them? I just be like, oh, I gotta call the goons. And here comes Chelsea. She'll get them together. So
I'll do it for you too. So just let me know. No, this has been so fun. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Proud of you. This was really fun. Yeah, let me know how I can, support the work that you're doing, and we'll be out here.
All right. Thank y'all. Thank you, everybody, for coming through. Please come share it with people. Come through, comment, let me know you were here, because I can't see the names and stuff like I thought I would be able to. Like, I would love to have seen everybody who's in here. So leave me a comment somewhere and let me know you support it. And hopefully it boosts the algorithm too, so other people can see it. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Chelsea. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We will catch y'all in 2 weeks.